Welcome to another episode of Off the Menu. I'm your host, Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House, here with the Schmaltzy Charles Coulombe.
Schmaltzy?
Yeah.
Schmaltzy? All right. Well, I know what you've done. You have taken to heart what that one fellow said after our last broadcast, which was, if you want wisdom, go to Lee Michael Jones. If you want schmaltz, to Charles A. Coulombe you should go.
That's right. He said that. You took that to heart. I
did. I felt very good about that. I felt very much at one with myself. Schmaltz, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think gets its due. I really don't. I mean, think about it. We've just come through the Christmas season. And if there isn't schmaltz at Christmas time, then there's never schmaltz anytime. And we're in Mardi Gras right now, pre-Lent, Carnival. Lent is not so schmaltzy. If anything, Lent is kind of the counter-schmaltz. The crucifixion is about as non-schmaltzy as it gets. But, schmaltz has not yet begun to fight. Because after the resurrection, out come the bunnies and the baskets and the little ducks and the chicks. The Easter egg hunts and the little Easter egg coloring things, the boxes with the schmaltzy pictures. I mean, the Pass Easter egg coloring package. If those pictures on those boxes aren't schmaltz, I don't know what is. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And then, of course, along comes summer, the 4th of July. Now, if there isn't schmaltz on the 4th of July, I mean, what good is apple pie? And, of course, heavens, as the autumn gets closer and closer, the schmaltz gets thicker and thicker. Halloween and Thanksgiving, and then we're back to Christmas. So, yeah, all right. I'm with schmaltz. Absolutely.
I didn't know you liked all that stuff about Easter. I mean, isn't that changing the focus of Easter away from the Christian religion with sort of trivial things? Easter bunny?
No more than it is changing. No more than Santa Claus is stealing the real meaning of Christmas away in his sleigh.
Oh, well, that's equally as bad, if not worse.
No, not at all. Santa comes with big bags of schmaltz.
Okay.
And I got to tell you, schmaltz is what makes our country, our culture run. I think for a second. What would you prefer? The Spanish Inquisition or the bells of St. Mary's?
Bells of St. Mary's? Okay.
Of course you would. Of course you would. Because you're an American. And schmaltz is who we are. Accept your fate.
Wow.
Of course you'd rather have the bells of St. Mary's than the Spanish Inquisition. You'd rather have the bells of St. Mary's than a hair shirt or self-flagellation. It's true.
Okay.
I mean, what other country could Marty Hagen have become the leading hymnographer?
The leading what?
Hymnographer.
Hymnographer. Marty Hagen. Not familiar.
A writer of hymns. He gave us all are welcome in this place. Marty Hagen.
You a big fan? Are you a big fan?
Well, I can't say that I'm a fan, but I can understand the appeal to people over 70.
Whoa, that seems like a veiled attack right there.
No, not at all. It's schmaltz.
Okay.
I'm all in favor of schmaltz. I'm in favor of Uncle Sam. I'm in favor of Cupid on Valentine's Day. I'm in favor of chocolate box illustrations and Whitman samplers and Mrs. C's pictures. And oh gosh, schmaltz has so much to offer.
Okay.
It's a Reader's Digest, for heaven's sake.
Okay.
Schmaltz. Golden Magazine.
What's...
Highlights. You remember highlights for children?
Oh yeah, they always had those. I always saw them at the dentist's office, and you found like these hidden objects in the picture. Yeah, I remember that magazine. Wow.
Indeed, you do. Just a little will do you, and a little more will do you better.
Well,
see, you just got in touch with your past, didn't you?
I did. I forgot about that completely. It's funny because when you said that, I absolutely had no idea what you're talking about, and it took a couple seconds, and then I got transported back to my past. It's like, wow.
That's what I do. Schmaltz. Now don't you feel better?
I feel better.
See? Every time you're around and you see Uncle Ted McCarrick or you see Planned Parenthood, just think of highlights for children.
I don't know if I want to do that.
And you'll be back, a 10-year-old boy sitting in the dentist's office.
That's kind of weird, Charles. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty weird, man.
Yeah, it is pretty weird, actually. I'm a little freaked out myself by it. But how is it if you find yourself in a position of having to say, I hope this doesn't weird you out? It's usually too late.
Yeah, that's always the case. 100% of the time.
Yep. If you got to say it, it's done.
Yeah. Okay, so in other news, we've reached our $500 goal on Patreon.
So, heavens to Betsy.
So now we get to do these shows every other week. Thank you to everyone who made this possible. We plan on releasing these videos every first and third Mondays of each month. So those will be happy Mondays. The second and fourth Mondays will still be sad Mondays.
Well, they don't have to stay that way.
No,
those Mondays too could be nice.
That's right. Once we reach the next goal, that's when we finally get to self-actualize as a show.
Oh boy!
Right now we are a weekly show stuck in a bi-weekly show's body. And also, Charles has said that he self-identifies as trans-financial. He's a rich man stuck in a poor man's body.
Very true.
So by becoming a patron, you can help everyone self-actualize. Let's bring back Off the Menu for every single Monday so we can truly say with pride, if it's Monday, it's off the menu. That's right. You can make Monday great again.
That's right. And you can make us feel better about ourselves as persons.
Absolutely. So head on over to our Patreon and join the club.
Gosh, that was pretty shameless. Well, ladies, it's true though. We do this stuff. Man, that was really bad. But look, it's like this, ladies and gentlemen. It is true. It is shameless. But if you get any benefit out of this, help us make it a weekly show. And, I'm a starving student here in Vienna. There's an entire staff of 1,700 people to keep employed there in the Tumbler House tower.
Right.
Which, gosh. Speaking of Tumbler House, what are you folks doing for Lent?
Oh, the whole tower is excited for Lent. Guess what we're going to be having for Fridays now?
Oh, let me guess. Mackerel.
Yeah, the same fish, mackerel. I've given, and I know what you're going to say, but I've given this a lot of thought, okay? And there are 3 great reasons to keeping things the same, okay?
Oh, what would those be?
The first one is that people develop routines, habits. So there's that expectation, you see?
It's not expectation, Vinny. Do you understand that what you guys gleefully call mackerel is tilapia that's 5 days old?
That's right. But see, it's a source of stability that they count on when everything else in this world is changing. There's that Friday, there's that mackerel, and it's like, there we go.
It's a source of
that one constant in their lives.
It's a source of fear.
A source of fear? Well,
Let me tell you something. When you dig your fork into the stuff and it doesn't quite come off,
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? When it's still sort of linked to a gooey. That's not really mackerel. You know this, don't you? They call it mackerel because it's dark and smelly, but it's really just Monday's tilapia 5 days later.
Oh, well, I don't really know the experience of eating it so well. I hear good things, though.
Yeah, I'll bet you hear good things from your finance officer. I'll bet you hear great things. But you've never actually eaten in the commissary. When I was over there, that's where I had my lunches when we do our filming. And I'll never forget your brother saying when this whole thing started, "Oh, and your lunches will be for free." Yeah, they were for free, all right.
Uh-huh.
Gosh, yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing.
And worth every penny.
Absolutely. That's the second reason is, number two, is it saves the company money. Every little bit counts, Charles. We're all in this together.
Yeah, we're in this together. Let me ask you a question. How many days a week are they still going to have lobster in the executive dining room?
Well, see, that's a totally different matter. You see, the company operates at maximum efficiency when the comfort level of the top floor people are at the maximum. See, I mean, I'm an idea man, okay? The whole company revolves around what's inside this head here, and so I need to be comfortable, and I need to have a situation that promotes ideas. And so there are a couple comforts that are required, and that thing is, I mean, it's essential.
Essential? You've got 8 vice presidents. One of them is your vice president in charge of tea consumption. How is that essential? Tea consumption.
Tea consumption is a huge market, Charles, and he's on top of it. He's doing a bang-up job.
Yeah, I'll bet he is.
And, I mean,
what does he do other than play solitaire on the computer all day?
Well, see, that's one thing I was going to say. Solitaire is excellent for stimulating your mind. Get what are they? Free association. It gets these new innovative ideas in there by playing solitaire. So don't begrudge him if you just walk into his office. Well, not that you'd have occasion to.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
You realize the only times I've ever been above the 17th floor were when they inaugurated the meditation garden, and on those rare occasions when your brother would summon me to the penthouse, which I noticed you never did.
Well, I've got bigger things going on, Charles.
Yeah,
it's all about you. God, what about me? What about me?
I'm the talent.
I've got so many people to worry about under my stewardship. I mean, heavy is the crown, right?
Heavy is the butt that bears the boss. Yeah, I know.
But so the last thing that I had in terms of why it's a great idea to keep the fish is I find it appropriately penitential. You see, I don't just care about my employees' physical well-being. I care about their spiritual well-being, too. How many bosses could say that?
Colin, not with a straight face. Not many.
So I'm proud to say we're going to have a very holy Lent this year in the Tumber House building.
Well, I'm sorry I'm going to miss out, but that's okay. Yeah. Again, I'm sorry I'll miss out. Are you going to throw a carnival ball this year, though, for the employees before you start Lent?
Well, there's 2 different carnival balls. They'll the lower level ones are going to have theirs,
yes,
and
I'm
the
sure.
top floor will have ours.
Yes,
and
I'm sure.
It'll be a little different, but
yes. Are you going to have music at the downstairs ball?
Well, I mean, we're not going to stop people from bringing musical instruments and stuff. I mean, that's, or somebody brings, their iPod and plugs into speakers. Sure.
Oh, yeah. So let me get this straight. Basically, you're going to take all the cars out of the downstairs garage, and if they want to bring something, they can do whatever they want there.
Yeah. And that's freedom,
yeah,
right? That's freedom.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the assembly room, but by the meditation garden on, I think, the 23rd floor, you're going to have a full band and no host bar and a buffet Yeah, okay.
Well, as I said, I mean, our comfort level from the top floor, I mean, that the whole thing revolves around that. I mean, they're crucial. That's why they get paid the big bucks, Charles. I mean,
Yeah, I can see
as a
that.
low-level man yourself, I mean, I think you fail to grasp how important those comforts are. And
Yes,
also to attract and retain top-level talent. See? I mean, if we don't have these things, how can we get the big men? How can we get all the top talent? I mean, absolutely.
I guess that's why I've never been invited to any of these soirees, because you're looking for top talent. The bargain basement talent, you've already got locked up. Okay, well, I've been cut down to size. No humility without humiliation, they say. All right, well, enough of our insanity. What about the insanity of our beloved public?
Oh, yeah, we'll get to the questions in 1 second. One last thing, I thought I should mention. People will probably know I've got a different.
I can tell them what that is. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the double eagle of the House of Habsburg, the imperial standard, no less, that would have flown over the Hofburg when the emperor was in residence. That would have flown at the head of the imperial armies when His Majesty was doing the whole generaling thing. The standard.
Yeah, so that's available on our Teespring store now. I asked a bunch of our fans if this is something they'd be interested in. Everyone seemed very excited, so we went ahead and did. I love how I just love. It's such a rich pageantry.
It is
so ornate. And I have a feeling, I'm sure you probably know this, but I would guess every little crest on that is its own house, is it not? It's its own little...
It's its own region. So, for instance, to your immediate left, at the top, is the Hungarian coat of arms. And you can see the Holy Crown of St. Stephen. Across from it...
The red one? Yeah.
Yeah, to your on the wing.
You're right there.
Yeah, that one. And each of them represent a different country or province of the empire. The one on the far right, I believe, is Bohemia, and the crown of St. Wenceslaus. And then surmounting the two heads is the Imperial Austrian crown.
That?
Yeah. Now, the interesting thing is, you'll notice it looks vaguely like the double-headed eagle of Russia under the Romanovs. There's reason it's not a typographical error. It's because both the Habsburgs and the Romanovs, in their way, claim to be the heirs to Rome, to Imperial Rome, and the double-headed eagle was the standard of the Christian Roman Empire. He looks both ways, east and west. You see. The eagle has two heads.
Interesting.
And so it's in 1 year, 1918, the last reigning claimants to the eastern half were murdered, and the last reigning claimants to the western half were deposed and exiled. A very sad story, and not one we've ever recovered from, sadly. But anyway, that is the Habsburg coat of arms.
Yep. Once again, available on our Teespring store. If you'd like to purchase it, we have a link in the description of this video. And also, there'll be a pop-up link at the top right corner of your screen right now. Okay, so... got that covered. Oh, one last thing. For everyone out there, we're very much aware that I just would like to mention that Charles is in Austria. I'm in Southern California. This is a stream that is taking place from two opposite sides of the world. So there is some lag right now from time to time. We apologize for that, but we are working on that, and hopefully we work out the bugs in the next coming episodes.
And it's important to remember, too, that this is really kind of a magical thing. We couldn't have done this 10 years ago.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Been an age of wonders.
Yeah.
Like Mrs. Clinton.
Yeah. Absolutely. Mrs. Clinton. That's what I think of when I think of wonder. I think of Mrs. Clinton.
Well, she makes me wonder.
I wonder. Well, actually, I wonder what she's doing now. I actually feel bad. People are going to disagree with this, but I feel bad for her because it's like her whole life it was dedicated to power and this goal, and then now it's like what do you do now? It's like you
don't feel too bad. She's announced her run for 2020.
She's going to lose, though.
She's announced her run for 2020. So is Bernie Sanders.
That would be funny if she beat Bernie again. That would be absolutely brutal. What do you? Okay, since we just happened to jump on here impromptu predictions, Charles.
About what? Do I look like Criswell?
Well, you're a student of Criswell, so didn't you pick up anything from Criswell?
And we are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. And future events like these will affect you in the future. All right, fine. What are your questions? No, you got future questions. What do you want me to predict about?
Yeah, Democratic primary. Who's going to come out? Who's going to win?
Very good question. Well, if I were Criswell, and I'll probably do so with as much accuracy, I would say that if Mrs. Clinton runs again against Bernie, and they're both announced, if they're the only contenders, Mrs. Clinton will win again.
Okay, what about Kamala Harris?
Say that if Kamala Harris runs and Bernie runs and Mrs. Clinton runs, Kamala has a very good chance of beating both of them.
Oh, don't say that, Charles. Are you sure? Why would you say that?
Well, the Democratic Party has been captured by insane people.
And so, okay, it's been captured by insane people, and also their constituency is
getting increasingly wild. Plus, bear in mind that both Bernie and Clinton are proven losers.
Bernie and who?
Mrs. Clinton are both proven losers.
Oh.
And presumably, the Democrats would like someone who doesn't have a long trail of loss to possibly even defeat the Republican. I mean, you got to bear this thing in mind. They are supposed to want to run against Mr. Trump.
Okay.
They want to run someone who has not proved that they cannot beat him.
Right. Okay.
I can't imagine if it's just Mrs. Clinton and Bernie. I'm sure she'll win. But if Kamala Harris runs, remember that a lot of people who voted for Obama stayed home for Mrs. Clinton.
Right.
Runs, the thought might be that surely the same people will turn out for her.
But I mean, nothing happened under Obama. Like, what happened to all the change? Like, it's all the same thing. So doesn't that? So, I mean, maybe people do things. Well, I mean, certain things changed on social issues, but in terms of the welfare of poor communities, everything's the same, if not worse.
No, it's actually a little better.
Oh, is it a little better? Okay.
Well, if by better we mean more employed.
I don't trust that employment number. I've never trusted it because several reasons.
It's voodoo, but the fact of the matter is that if it had gone down or even stayed the same, we'd have heard about it. Because everyone would be jumping up and down. Nobody's saying nothing about it except Trump, which indicates to me. I mean, you notice that nobody contradicts him. Nobody says, "No, that's not true."
Well, because they want to because they also want to use it whenever they like. It's an agreed upon weapon. Because the thing that you really want to look at is labor participation rate. The whole what is it? Discouraged workers. I don't know how they count that because I guess
they never count that.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I don't know how they count the number of discouraged workers because that makes that unemployment number lower, and then the unemployment number also doesn't take into account how many people are underemployed. How many people have went to college, did a great job, graduated magna cum laude, and they're working as a waiter at Applebee's. It's like, oh, great job. Yeah, that's a contribution to the unemployment number. No, that sucks, actually. So I hate that unemployment number because there's so many people who for that is the situation.
It likes you, though.
Okay, well, I guess so.
No, I mean, look, it's, you know the difference between economics and voodoo?
What's the difference?
Voodoo has a success rate.
Yeah, the economics number, the unemployment number is a political number, in my opinion.
You're probably right, but if the Trumpster is completely, let's put it this way, his opponents will jump on anything they can jump on, as they've shown. And the one area they have not felt confident on jumping on him is the economy.
Well, I mean, it's really the same old game, actually, that I've heard. I've heard Obama saying, "Oh, yeah, Trump thinks that he's responsible," when really it's Obama's. It's due to Obama's thing. It takes some time for his measures to get in gear. It's the same political game.
It always takes time for the measures to get in gear. Well, I have to admit, I'm always skeptical about the ability of any one president to significantly affect the economy one way or the other. But that's my secret that I don't share with anyone.
Because Obama always, because when things were tough under him, then he blamed Bush.
Yeah.
So
no, if he'd been smart, he would have blamed Trump. This is all because Trump's going to be president. That would have been a much smarter deal.
Yes.
But, you know.
Anyhow, enough of that. I'm sure everyone's bored with this. So onward to the questions.
We've got other things to bore you. I mean, what?
Yes. Okay, on to the questions.
All right.
Question from Nicholas, who is one of our very generous patrons from the proud mail clerk tier.
Oh, we love the guys in the mailroom.
Yeah, that's right. All right. He says, Venerable Mr. Coulombe, I would like to ask you to tell us about the life of Saint Valentine, his possible identity, and to shed some light on why his feast day was removed from the new calendar. Thank you very much.
Well, what little I recall about St. Valentine is that he was 3rd or 4th century martyr. There's a story as to why he became identified with lovers, and I have to admit, I can't remember what it was. Why he was removed from the calendar, well, the fact that not that much was known about him was cited as reason for it. But frankly, I think the messing around with the saints in '69 was a bad move. But they didn't consider about that else. Anyway, don't worry about it. He's still very much a saint in the extraordinary form calendar, and I guarantee you that your beloved will appreciate your honoring him.
Do you happen to know if he was a priest or bishop or anything?
He was a priest, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
He might have been a bishop, but I'm sure he was a priest. And some of his relics are in a church in Ireland. I remember that. Although they're also in a church in Italy. I mean, his body was sort of split up.
Any idea on his ethnicity? Anything like that?
Roman/Italian.
Okay.
What else would the patron of lovers be but an Italian? Come on.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, watch it. You behave.
I'm sorry. The patron of lovers should have been French. We know this.
Yeah, well, that's true. What they say about Paris, etc., but
I don't know if I like that at all. Never mind. All right, let's move along. This is really getting bad. Let's go.
Okay. All right. Next question is from Timothy Martin.
Okay.
I am a former Anglican journeying towards full communion with Rome through the personal ordinariate of the Chair of St. Peter. I obviously love England and its culture and traditions. For a long time, I have been toying with the idea of joining the Royal Society of St. George. It is an organization dedicated to preserving English culture and tradition. While I think this definitely has value, especially today when my beloved England is being overrun with leftist Republican ideologies in Islam, I am concerned because Queen Elizabeth II is the royal sponsor of the society. Would it be wrong for me as a Catholic to belong to a society whose figurehead is outside of the communion with the Holy See?
Not as long as it's not a religious body, and it's not. I mean, I was a Boy Scout, as many, many, many young Catholics are, and for other reasons, I wouldn't be a Boy Scout now. Well, I was an Eagle Scout, as was my brother and before me, and all of my nephews after me.
Hmm.
But the honorary president of the United States, the honorary president of the Boy Scouts of America, is always the sitting president of the United States. And then after his term is over, he becomes the vice president for life, the honorary vice president of the Scouts for life.
Mm-hmm.
So, the thing you got to bear in mind is that the Queen represents an institution that once was Catholic and was sort of desiccated and wrecked to a great degree.
Yeah.
Whereas our presidency was made out of whole cloth. So no, I certainly wouldn't. I wouldn't mind joining the Royal Society of St. George myself. I know what they're about, and I'm all for what they do.
Okay. Next question is from Andrew. I have a question regarding the efficacy and appropriateness of praying the Rosary during Holy Mass. Pope St. Pius X tells us, quote, "If you wish to hear Mass as it should be heard, you must follow with eye, heart, and mouth all that happens at the altar. Further, you must pray with the priest the holy words said by him in the name of Christ, and which Christ says by him. You have to associate your heart with the holy feelings which are contained in these words, and in this manner you ought to follow all that happens at the altar." End quote. However, both Popes Leo XIII and Pius XII approved the Rosary as a prayer suitable for Mass, and many great saints did so. What's more is perennial trad favorite Dr. Taylor Marshall recently said that he personally prays the Rosary at Mass, starting at the offertory, and encourages others to do the same, adding that even more graces could be bestowed through attaching these two high forms of prayer. Charles, is it permissible to pray the Rosary during Mass, and if so, should we?
Well, I think this is very much an example of that blessed liberty wherewith Christ hath set us free. This is something that you really have to decide on your own. To say the Rosary or to follow the Mass very closely. I do the latter. But I know very devout and very pious Catholics who get a lot out of the Mass who say the Rosary. This is really an area where if it works, it's good.
Yeah.
Because, devotional life is very, very, very much a personal thing. And while there's some basic things, everyone should say the Rosary. Everyone should go to adoration. Everyone should get into this, at least one scapular. It's not the kind of thing where someone else, unless it's your spiritual director, and in that case knows you very, very well, it's not something really where someone else can sit down and tell you precisely what you ought to do. If a given manner of praying the Mass works for you, then do that. If it doesn't, then do another.
Yeah.
I mean, Father Lessance, whom we remember from the Young Man's Guide and the Young Girl's Guide, he provided a set of alternate prayers to say during Mass, and that was very common once upon a time. So,
yeah,
it's up to you.
Different strokes for different folks. Another very important lesson from another spiritual classic, Introduction to Devout Life. I didn't bring the book here, but Introduction.
Francis de Sales.
Said Francis de Sales, a classic, Introduction to Devout Life, and he makes a very important point about not judging other people in this area, because the devout life, it's not one size fit all.
No.
There are many different ways to be devout. And so just because someone is devout in a different way, you shouldn't be like, oh, that guy's bad.
He says the rosary during Mass. He doesn't say the rosary during Mass.
Yeah, like that. So it's a very important lesson. Just because it's different, I mean, it's very... A lot of times people don't like to approach from a subjective... they approach it from everything from an objective point of view, but not everything is objective. At least not, in my opinion, not when it comes to the devout life, to some extent.
No, it's... I mean, each of us are made in a different way. There's an old joke, why there's so many religious orders? Well, because each fits a different personality type.
Absolutely.
I mean, so, as I say, try saying the rosary at Mass, try doing something else at Mass, see what works for you, and then stick with it.
Okay, next question. Charles, could you explain the connections between the British royal family and Freemasonry? I only know that the Duke of Kent is a Freemason, but his wife and kids are Catholic. How far does Freemasonry's reach go in the House of Windsor? And if the monarchy were to be converted in the future, how would Freemasonry be removed from it?
Well, that's a good question, and the answer is that Edward VII, Queen Victoria obviously was not a Freemason because she was a woman. Edward VII, her son, was a Freemason, although we have it on the authority of people like Monsignor Vaughan that he came into the church on his deathbed. I don't know, I wasn't there, but that's what's said. George V was the head of the Grand Lodge of England as king, and so were Edward VIII and George VI. Then came Elizabeth. Now, Elizabeth, like Victoria, could not be head of the Freemasons in England, so it devolved to one of her uncles, in this case, the Duke of Kent. The current Duke of Kent is actually her cousin, first cousin. Her son, Prince Charles, refused to become a Freemason. So to answer your question, how would they slough it off? Well, it's been done, in the sense that the Prince of Wales isn't a Freemason, and I don't believe either of his sons are. They may have other problems, but not that. Now, the Duke of Kent, as you rightly mentioned, his wife is a convert, as are, one of his sons, Lord Nicholas Windsor, is a convert as well. And another of his sons is married to a Catholic, and his children are Catholic. So, the Kents have gotten kind of, and then Prince Michael of Kent, the Duke of Kent's younger brother, is also married to a Catholic. So the Kents are in kind of a weird setup. But at any rate, Lord Nicholas Windsor is probably the highest ranking Catholic in the nation. And he's very much at the forefront of pro-life and things like that. And also a great supporter of the Ordinariate. And also a patron of the Society of King Charles the Martyr. That.
Whoa, he hits all the... Wow, okay.
He hits all the points.
Yeah.
And he's married to a good Croatian noblewoman, so all is well in this best of all possible worlds.
I love that.
So, to answer your question, how would they slough it off if they converted? Well, as far as the Wales sons are concerned, it's already been sloughed off. Though they haven't converted yet.
Okay. Next question is from Mason Hagler. Is it acceptable for men to wear long hair past their shoulders?
I don't like it. Like men wearing past their collars. But our Lord had long hair. had long hair.
That's true.
I don't know how far it went. I wasn't there.
Are Jews allowed to cut their hair like that? I mean,
Jews?
back in the day, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's a good question, and the answer is I don't know.
because it struck me that everyone had long hair. You know, no one was
So the Romans didn't.
Oh, that's true. But
And the Romans were clean shaven.
That's true. So it was possible, but it seemed like all the Jews at that time sort of opted to just grow their hair out.
Yeah. So I think a lot depends upon the how, the why, the where. I mean, the Cavaliers under King Charles versus the Roundheads and Cromwell. If that was the setup, I'd grow my hair long.
Okay.
You know, so it depends on the what, the where, the how, the why.
I think I think what's underneath this is Saint Paul. I think he has Saint Paul's passage in mind, because I've heard this quote before where he says something like it's grotesque for a man to do it, but for a woman to do it, that's her glory, or something like that.
You know, I think it's wonderful that people glom on to a single text of St. Paul and ignore totally other texts of St. Paul's, to say nothing of the gospel. But let's move along.
Okay. Next question is from Egil Cross. I know Charles is a very sensible man, but I also know he likes to have fun.
True.
So out of all the conspiracy theories he has heard of, which is the one that amuses him the most, and which one does he think, in his own judgment, is the most probable to be true?
The one I like the most is the idea that the Freemasons and the Jesuits are in on the great conspiracy together.
Why do you like that?
Well, it's because it's so crazy. What would make it better would be if there were space aliens involved. Say the Jesuits and the Freemasons are in the pay of the UFO masters. I'd like that a lot more, even. So that would add to it. In terms of the one I think is real, I think that the United States of America have been in a long-term conspiracy to disestablish established faiths wherever they can. In other words, to separate church and state, or religion and state, from any area that comes under their control. Kind of like the Southwest when we got it from Mexico, Cuba, the Philippines, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Japan, for that matter. We've always supported separation of religion and state. I think that's one conspiracy I definitely believe in. I mean, believe that it exists. I don't agree with it.
Is that a conspiracy, or is that just fact?
Why can't it be both?
Well, is anyone actually denying that and saying, no, we don't do that?
Well, they can't.
They can't.
But then they can't deny it.
But then it's not a conspiracy. There's no cover.
Well, it's a conspiracy, and you don't need to cover up. It's a conspiracy in plain sight. They've gotten all of us to go along with it.
Okay.
We all basically agree with it.
Okay. My shout out to my favorite conspiracy. My favorite conspiracy is the one on Sister Lucia, where there are two Sister Lucias.
Yes.
I guess like Sister Lucia had to be replaced because I guess the new Sister Lucia said that the Russia was consecrated, and so I guess a lot of traditionalists don't like that, so it's got to be like an imposter Sister Lucia to say that. That's a fun one to me.
That makes sense. I mean, it's there. Well, now another good one was the Bayside approach, that Paul VI was taken prisoner and held captive and replaced by an actor who was the one who brought in the new mass and everything else, and presumably suffered for writing Humanae Vitae instead of the real Paul VI. Now, mind you, that was the supposition of Veronica Lukens, the seeress of Bayside. Now, she got into a fight with an Australian seer who called himself the Little Pebble. And he declared the real Veronica Lucans had also been similarly kidnapped and replaced.
Mm.
So the real Veronica Lucans was being held with the real Paul VI, because the real Veronica Lucans would never have gotten into a fight with him.
Ah, yeah. I know you're a fan of Bayside.
Always. It's the only false apparition I believe in.
Okay. Next question is from Hayden Finlay. I'm a Catholic and have recently been questioning why exactly God reveals himself to the prophets. Surely that's unfair for the sake of being unfair. If God reveals himself to the prophets, then the prophets must have a free ticket to heaven, no? After all, who wouldn't sin after witnessing themselves the proof for God's existence?
I think you've got it the other way around. The prophets were pretty virtuous men already. You see,
but
he didn't choose just anybody to come to. He came to people who knew whom he knew or presumed would carry out what he do.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, somebody like Jonah, who tried to resist the will of God, ended up getting into the belly of a whale. But it's not a question of fairness, but a question of quality. The majority of us just don't have the stuff that prophets are made of.
Okay.
I don't.
Isn't it part of California? I think St. Augustine and Aquinas might have talked about predestination in terms of heaven. Isn't that true? And I know that's one of I know for the graces for the Rosary that they specifically say devotion to the Rosary is a sign of predestination.
Yeah, St. Augustine took dealt with that in some detail. But the truth of the matter is that, as I say, the most of us are not the stuff prophets are made of. God's going to do what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Fairness doesn't play into it. And also, I mean, Solomon may not have gone to heaven. So a prophet who falls short of his high calling often doesn't end well. Of course, the prophet who doesn't fall short of his position often gets martyred.
Oh, right.
And how many of us are really keen on getting martyred?
Yeah. Okay.
If I were to say to you, well, you can have absolute assurance of the truth of the faith and the existence of God, but you're going to be chopped into little tiny pieces very cruelly and die in horrible agony. Or you can take everything on faith and have a fighting chance of dying comfortably in bed.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay.
So,
all right. Next question is from Peter. What are your thoughts on Saint Josemaria Escriva and the Opus Dei?
Woof. Well, I've known a lot of people who've had a lot to say about Opus Dei. Some violently for it, some violently against it. A good friend of mine was the first American priest of the Opus Dei, the now recently deceased Monsignor William Stetson. But I myself have never been to an Opus Dei prayer meeting or the closest I've ever come was to a Saint Josemaria Escriva mass at a church. That's it. I don't really have any direct contact with how they do things. As I say, I've known people who thought they were just a horrible cult. I've known people who thought they were the greatest thing since plaid paint. But I'm not really in a position to make any kind of an intelligent opinion about it, except that I wish they'd get rid of the albino killer monks.
Yeah, speaking of conspiracy theories, so so you're on the Dan Brown Da Vinci Code side of things, huh?
Well, only as far as the fact that they employ, as one does, albino killer monks.
Albino killer monks. You gotta watch out for those.
And the women who love them.
And the... Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know much about Opus Dei. I was considering joining them, but then I read their list, and it's very. I thought, you know what? I'm not quite ready in the spiritual life. I'm not advanced yet enough for this, because it was pretty demanding, to say the
Yeah, it's
least.
pretty demanding.
And
And whether I mean some people I know, people whose opinions I respect, call it a cult and worse. People I know whose opinions I respect say wonderful things about it. So I don't know.
they say that for a lot of things, to be honest. I don't think. I'm skeptical of that critique, because they say it for the TFP. They say it for a lot of
Yeah.
different organizations that.
Well, and also it's very easy if you've got burned with an organization.
Yeah.
And that can often happen. You run into the wrong person, you have a bad experience,
Yeah.
it can turn you off on the whole thing. I don't know. And I'm not going to pretend to know.
One thing, while we're on this topic, I want to give a shout out to is Saint Josemaria's 17 signs that you too lack humility.
Oh no, how's that possible?
Now this is the most demanding set of principles that I've ever heard of. So for our audience at home, when you hear this thing, just don't get too upset. Don't beat yourself up over some of these things, but there are good things nevertheless to aspire to. Okay, I'm just gonna list some of these. I'm not gonna list all 17. I'm gonna list some of the notables. Thinking that what you do or say is better than what others do or say. Wow, that's just natural.
We all feel that way.
Wow, that's just natural. I don't know. I mean, that's wow. Okay. Always wanting to get your own way.
Well, we all want that.
Wow. Despising the point of view of others. Now this is interesting, because this makes me think of hate the sin, love the sinner. See, I mean, when a point of view is heretical or evil in some way, I mean, you have to despise it, right? But then I guess not despise the person.
Yeah, and also remember that a lot of the time we despise people's opinions, not any opinion based upon immutable truth or based against it, but just against regular everyday things. Oh, so and so, who's always saying that they're gonna have the money to us on time. They never do. You can't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, or I got you. So something trivial like, oh, you like tacos more than pizza. I hate you.
Yeah, well, I mean, although we generally don't even say hate. It's just a sort of low contempt.
Yeah, low contempt. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Making excuses when rebuked. Ooh, that's another one. And last one. This is hearing praise with satisfaction, or being glad that others have spoken well of you. You can't even feel good when a person compliments you. That's a sign of lack of humility.
Well.
That's so. Anyhow, I mean, to me, these are saintly qualities. To me, if you do all of these perfectly, you are set.
It would seem so. Yeah. Yeah, I would say.
Okay, on to our book. Our book for today is God or Nothing by Cardinal Sarah.
Oh.
And so this book, I've read this book. I've actually read this book. To me, why I wanted to read this book is I needed a breath of fresh air. There's so many scandals in the church, and it seems like no one understands that there's actually a crisis in the church, or that there are multiple crises in the church. There's, obviously the sexual abuse crisis, but also a crisis of faith. And that's why I specifically sought after this book, is because I need to have some more hope. I need to have some more trust in that there are prelates in the church that understand, that get it. And Cardinal Sarah gets that in spades. I mean, this book has some one-liners in here that are fantastic. Everyone's gonna love it. I'm gonna do. You haven't read this book, have you, Charles? Or
Not yet. No.
okay. So yeah, we also all remember Cardinal Sarah for doing the ad orientem suggestion, and then getting sort of reprimanded, I guess. So that's his
Smackdown.
Smackdown.
Boy,
Yeah.
I'm in Smackdown.
Yeah. So okay. One caveat about this book is that it was written before Pope Francis's papacy hit some bumps in the road, so to speak. You know, the dubia, etc., the ad orientem thing. So it doesn't address that. But anyhow, here are a couple good quotes that serve as talking points. Pope Benedict XVI often recalled that the liturgy is not supposed to be a work of personal creativity. If we make the liturgy for ourselves, it moves away from the divine. It becomes a ridiculous, vulgar, boring, theatrical game. We end up with liturgies that resemble variety shows. An amusing Sunday party at which to relax together after a week of work and cares of all sorts. Once that happens, the faithful go back home after the celebration of the Eucharist without having encountered God personally or having heard him in the inmost depths of the heart.
Yeah.
So I find it ironic that he says the liturgy isn't supposed to be a personal work of creativity, and that's sort of what Cardinal Supich said to him when he suggested ad orientem.
Well, Cardinal Supich and so many of these guys are really living pulsating piles of creativity.
Pulsating yeah, steaming piles of perfection.
That's it. I mean, it doesn't get better. I was asked who I thought might win the next election, the next conclave. And what I said was, "Que sera, sera. The future's not ours to see."
That's what we're all hoping.
Well, we hope so. I certainly. We need a break from these people. They're tiresome.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say that about the Holy Father, of course, but Cardinal Supich, Cardinal Tobin, Cardinal Marx, Cardinal Madariaga, all this gang, Cardinal Castro, all this gang of just utter. I mean, Alibaba and the 40 boobs. It's just amazing. I don't know what I find more annoying: their lack of orthodoxy, their lack of brains, their lack of listening to themselves. I mean, Supich, when he was asked about when the Pope was coming back from whatever he was coming back from, and Supich was going on about how he's busy with the environment and industrial relations and so on.
Oh, yeah.
And he was asked, what about the scandals? Oh, there's not going down that rabbit hole.
He has bigger fish to fry. Yeah, that's what he said. He's got the environment. Yeah. That was unbelievable.
Like me. He's got people who have no business wearing red hats or the funny clothing, and they're running the show. Oh. I don't think he said anything like that. But, it's time, really, if they want to show good faith, everyone like Worrell, who came to power through the munificence of Cardinal McCarrick, Uncle Ted, as we like to call him, need to resign. Supich, Tobin, the whole bunch need to say bye-bye.
You're not calling Pope Francis to resign, right? Or are you?
Oh, no.
Yeah, okay.
No, but I'm calling. He wasn't promoted because of McCarrick, not to my knowledge.
Right.
But everyone in the American hierarchy who is a creature of McCarrick needs to resign.
Okay.
They need to get out of Dodge. They need to take off the funny red hats and give up the power and the money and go move in with Uncle Ted at the monastery he's at. Maybe start a new religious order.
Yeah.
They call it the Sons of Pope Julius or something.
Okay.
But no, they need to. As long as they hold on to power, you know they're not sincere, because they are the problem. They're not part of the problem. They are the problem.
Yeah.
At least in America.
Okay.
You know, this latest thing in Argentina, it just never ends. And to be fair, in the interest of full disclosure, it's not like I thought any different. In other words, I have to admit, pretty much aware of McCarrick and all the rest of it. So I'm not going to tell you that I was horrified and shocked, surprised, and disgusted. Well, I was disgusted a bit, but that was an ongoing disgust that I've had since I first started looking into this stuff back in the 80s. But now that it's out in the open, if they want to restore confidence in the church, they need to go. If the Holy Father wants to restore confidence in his leadership, he needs to make them go. He's shown that he's very quick to smacking people around when he wants to.
Yeah.
You know, there's a German bishop, there's Bishop Flynn here in the States. Anytime he wants somebody out, they're in the street. So, if the Holy Father really wants to show a commitment to reform, he needs to exercise that same ability to command and send these toads out on their ears. Because if he doesn't, he leaves the terrible suspicion in his mind that he's them because he's one of them. I'd rather not believe that.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, if it happens to be true, if he is another Julius III or John the IX or Benedict the 13th, well, it's bad, but we've had Julius III, John the IX, and Benedict the 13th before. And probably, if the world lasts long enough, we shall have them again. I have to admit, it's not a lot of fun for us living in these times. But I can't help but think of Frodo telling Gandalf, "Oh, I wish I'd never lived to see such times." And Gandalf saying, well, so say you, so say me. So says everyone who lives to see such times. But that is not given us to choose. All we can do is choose what to do with the time we are given.
Okay. Couple more quotes from this book.
Oh boy.
Because this really is an unbelievable book, and there were so many quotes to choose from. I really need to show you guys that this is... Cardinal Sarah just hits a bullseye on this. Okay. Why this frenzied desire to impose gender theory? An anthropological vision that was unknown a few years ago, the product of the strange thought of a few sociologists and writers, should suddenly become the world's new El Dorado? It is impossible to remain complacent in the presence of such an immoral and demonic deception.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear. This is a great one. This is my favorite quote in the book. Western societies are organized and live as though God did not exist. Christians themselves, on many occasions, have settled down to a silent apostasy. If the concerns of contemporary man are centered almost exclusively on the economy, technology, and the immediacy of material happiness that has been wrongly sentimentalized, God becomes distant, and often in the West, the last things and eternity have unnecessarily become a sort of psychological burden. We don't like psychological burdens, you know. Have you ever meditated on eternity? I don't like it.
Well, the possibility of hell forever is unpleasant.
I
The
don't like.
possibility of heaven forever is better,
It's better.
but
So
it has a downside.
what's the downside?
Doing someone else's will for eternity.
See, that's yeah.
That's the downside. But in truth, what we have to remember is that giving up our own illusion of control to try to pursue God's will is what we were made for. You know, it occurred to me some time ago that one of our interesting failures to notice, and it was thinking about the Sacred Heart and the Divine Mercy devotion, in both of which Margaret Mary Alacoque said that our Lord was much hurt by the fact that people did not love him in return. And Saint Faustina Kowalska said that our Lord had said to her that he was much hurt by the fact that people didn't trust him.
Yeah.
Now, looking at those two together, he loves us, and we pursue other things. We play hard to get, as though we had something more desirable going on than what he's got to offer us. Can you make me a better deal, God? A better deal, eternal bliss with me, who created you precisely because I loved you as an individual, or forever in hell with Satan. Can I make you a better deal, better offer? That's hard. And it's hard because all tied up with Satan's offer is doing our own will.
Right.
You should be like unto gods. Hasn't done him a lot of good. And it really occurs to me that we do need to think a lot about the fact that he's not out to get us, but he wants to embrace us completely and totally. If you think about it, we human beings are funny because we have a limited capacity to love, but an infinite desire to be loved. No one who loves you on this earth, no one you know who loves you, will ever do so to your complete satisfaction. And yet, of course, you're not really capable of loving them to their complete satisfaction.
Right.
You want it all, but you can't give it all. Well, the reason for that, of course, is that we were made for and by God. Because of our fallen nature, we cannot return his love as we should, though we should try. But we want every bit that he could possibly give us. And of course, he's got an infinite amount to give, unlike everything else we substitute for him. Not even your dog will give you sufficient love. It's true. A lot, but there's always something more, something missing. And I remember a woman I knew spoke to a priest and complained that nobody loved her. And the priest's response was, "That's not true." And knowing her as he did, he ticked off a number of people. And then he said, "The problem is no one loves you the way you want to be loved." Which is completely, totally, and entirely to the exclusion of everything else.
Right.
And he said, "You're not going to get that kind of love this side of the grave. Only God himself, only Christ can give the kind and amount of love that will completely fulfill that yearning." So it's important to bear this in mind because as the old joke, accept no, it's not a joke, it's an ad line, accept no substitutes. There really is no substitute for the love of Christ. None.
Yeah.
But we try.
It's funny you should say that because on my trips to adoration now, I've actually added a very important supplement right to the beginning, which is an intention. I ask God for the ability to love God more, but I also ask for the ability to understand how much He loves me, because I don't understand how much He loves me. It's still,
still alien.
Yeah. So, and I
Difficult.
feel those two things more than anything else will result in my happiness. It's those two things. So
I don't like it. And of course, when you stop and figure that for so many people, everything we're discussing right now is so much fantasy. It's we're talking about phantoms, and yet, if you stop and think about it, no one will dispute, I think, that what I've said about human nature. If Christ does not exist, then all we are is a simple, if God does not exist, all we are is a simple howling hole of emotional need that can never be filled in this life or the next. That's a pretty scary thought, isn't it?
Yeah. I've never heard you say that before. That's a new one.
What?
The
howling hole of emotional need?
Right, yeah.
Well, you could also use it as a pejorative. Listen here, you howling hole of emotional need. I could throw everything in this room, gaping maw, that needy grasping for affection. I could throw all the tables and chairs in this room down your throat, the couch too. You'd still want more. Well, anyway, you could use it that way. I would recommend it, but you could. No, it came to me on the spot just now.
Yeah.
And that's really what we are. It's all about me. No one understands me enough. No one listens. No one cares. No. That's because everybody else is busy saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Will all of you stop listening to yourselves when I need you to listen to me?
Wow.
Well, that's the way we are.
It's very true. No, it's 100% true. 100%.
I mean, I don't know how to say this, but at the end of the day, we're kind of silly.
Yeah.
My father used to say that we are all the stars in our own plays, all the heroes, always wonderful. And our first impulse toward anything is, and maybe this goes back to San Josemaria's notions, but the first impulse into anything is, oh, how I've been offended. Oh, how I've been hurt. Oh,
right.
How could they do this? Don't they know who I am? Can't they see? Don't they understand my whatever it is I think I've got? And he said, it's amazing. In a world so full of perfect people, it's astonishing that everything's so screwed up.
Yeah, it's weird.
Isn't it? Because we're all wonderful. I mean, ask any one of us.
Yeah. No,
we're
approaching perfection, as Desjardins would have said.
We're all this close to the omega point.
Right.
And yet, with all this perfection flopping around, like so many walruses on the beach, what do we got? Bupkis. That's what we got.
Okay, one last quote. It's a happy quote.
Happy. We like happy quotes.
We like happy quotes because Cardinal Sarah has been talking about all the problems and all this and that. Well, now here's a solution, okay? Prayer is the greatest need of the contemporary world. It remains the tool with which to reform the world. In an age that no longer prays, time is, so to speak, abolished, and life turns into a rat race. This is why prayer gives man the measure of himself and of the invisible world. Boy, he hits it right there. I mean, even for me, all the time, you get caught up in what's going on in the world. You're scrambling around. You're caught up in that rat race. And that's why, I'm starting to go to adoration more. It slows down, and it's a way of telling yourself, relax. God is in charge, not you. Boy, he hit it right. He hit the nail on the head with the rat race line. At least for me, that line really speaks to me.
Yeah, and also, when you think about prayer, it was a phrase that I would always hear when I was a kid. When I was, not so much a kid, older. Union of prayer.
Yeah.
As I get older, and so many more people I know are no longer on this earth plane.
Yeah.
It begins to mean more and more to me. All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day in particular become more and more filled with meaning as so many people I know join the armies of the dead. And prayer is the only thing that can bring them any solace if they're in purgatory. Obviously, if they're saints, they don't need it. If they're in hell, nothing's going to do them any good. But if they're in purgatory, it's the only thing that'll bring them solace. Best thing that one can do for them. But then you branch out from that. What is the best thing you can do for anybody, living or dead? Is pray for them. This is for them. Your rosaries, your visits to the Blessed Sacrament. Because I'm gonna mess this up. Also, can't help the joke into it. But years ago, there was a film by, for, and of boomers called The Big Chill. And I'm certainly not going to recommend it. But what I'm going to say is that its tagline was it fascinated me then. And again, specifically thinking of prayer these days, it hits me even more. And it was the tagline, in a cold world, you need your friends to keep you warm. And
interesting.
It is, if you take it out of whatever its actual context was. It is a cold world. It's cold, it's hostile, it's nasty. The powerful rule it to their own ends in church and state. But through prayer, we can be in touch with God Himself, the saints, and our Mother, but also in connection with everyone we love horizontally. You see?
Yeah.
And it's a reason why the monasteries were places of refuge as well as prayer, of prayer as well as refuge. And we all need a certain amount of refuge,
Yeah.
It's a terrible combat, and this is always the case on one level. The spiritual combat is the phrase they give to regular human life anyway. But then you add the specific historical circumstances we're in, and it means even more. But, all we can do is keep praying, keep smiling, and, as the 1932 classic has it, Mr. Herbert Hoover says now's the time to buy, so let's have another cup of coffee and let's have another piece of pie.
I like that one.
Have you heard that before?
I heard that on Mad Men.
It's a great song.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Well, that's a nice happy ending. That's a good one to end on, Charles.
Well, I do my best. It's springtime in a lot of places, but it's still cold in California. The rain is coming again.
Yeah, I'm telling all the people who always pray for rain, you can stop now. We've had more than double our yearly rainfall, and it just is the forecast. It keeps coming. It was fun for a long time, but it's not fun anymore.
Wait, but you notice I'm out of it. This is what I would love to be in the middle of, and I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what we're having here, just so you'll know, now you don't know this because you've never lived in a place with 4 seasons, but when winter makes way for spring and the snows go away, the first thing that pops out of the earth are these little white flowers, and they're called snowdrops.
Oh.
And after the snowdrops come out, you get these yellow flowers, and they're called daffodils. And then after the daffodils come out, there come the tulips. And after the tulips come the roses and everything else. And that's the way it goes. And since I was a child, I haven't seen it until 2014 when I was in Connecticut. And I was just squealing with delight to watch the same old succession that I remembered coming again. The snowdrops, the daffodils, the tulips, the roses. And now I'm watching it here in Austria. And the snowdrops are out, and the daffodils are just beginning to come along.
Sorry, I'm such a noob when it comes to this. Are you being literal? Is that literally how it happens?
I'm telling you, it's nothing you're familiar with.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really that progression? I mean, really?
Yeah.
It culminates with roses at the end?
Well, not just roses. I mean, roses and everything else, but
Yeah.
roses will catch my...
Ah, okay.
And you'll be... The roses are finally melted, and sometimes before they're all gone, you see these little tiny white flowers come out.
Yeah, wow.
And those are your snowdrops. And they call them snowdrops because very often, and they look like it, and very often there's still snow around. And then the daffodils, then the tulips, and the roses, and everything else.
Wow. That's... I'll put that in my memory bank, so if I ever have... if I ever
leave the endless summer.
Yeah, if I ever leave this endless summer in this desert of California, I'll keep that in mind.
Well, ask your mom. She's from Pennsylvania. She'll remember it.
I will.
It's I was absolutely delighted back in 2014 to see that it worked the way I remembered. And now out here, I'm just watching the snowdrops come up, and I said, "Oh, I know what's coming." And then the little yellow flowers have just started, the daffodils. It's spring is springing here. And today is March 1st, the feast of St. David of Wales. And the symbol of Wales is the daffodil, that yellow flower, and the leek, which is like a green onion on steroids.
Okay.
Those are the badges of Wales. You're going to have later in the month St. Patrick's Day, who's the patron of the Irish. But you'll also have St. Piran's Day, who's the patron of the Cornish. So you see, March is a very Celtic month, and it's the month of St. Joseph as well. So I should tell you one other thing, too, before we go, and you'll feel good about this.
Okay.
I found a place in Vienna that will cure up for me a hunk of American-style corned beef. So a week from Sunday, here at Trumau, we are going to have corned beef and cabbage.
I'm very happy for you. I know that's a huge deal for you. You're a corned beef aficionado.
And you just can't get it here.
Yeah.
I only know one place that serves pastrami. Sadly, its name is Pastrami Baby.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is weird. It mostly serves American tourists.
Okay. All right, very good, Charles. So that'll do it for this episode. Once again, remember we're on a new schedule, so it'll be the first and third Mondays. So we'll see everybody in 2 weeks. I'll see you then.
Until then, remember it's always darkest before it collapses completely.
Something like that.
So let's have another cup of coffee. And let's have another piece of pie.
There we go. All right, see you next time.
All right. God bless. Bye-bye all.